Okay. Oh. Good morning. Hi, everyone. Welcome to One Church. Thanks for bearing with us. We had some minor technical difficulties, but we've resolved them completely, and there won't be any more throughout the course of the morning. Welcome to One Church. Welcome back to One Church. If you've not been here for a while because you've been scooting off around the world, welcome if it's your first time. Welcome if you're here every week. It's lovely to see you all here. This is kind of, September always feels like a kind of coming back to it kind of time in this community. I appreciate, not all of us kind of have that school rhythm in our lives, but it does seem to be this kind of thing that carries through, where September feels like a bit of a time to restart and recalibrate and think about what we're trying to do together as a church and how we want to be together as a church. And that means, by and large, each year we use September to look through our values, like the kind of core principles that as a church we use as our compass, as our kind of way of navigating life. And so we'll talk about that in a little while, and Dave's going to introduce a couple of our values together. And September kind of journeys towards this point later on in September where we have a thing called Partnership Sunday. It's a chance in the year to say, okay, I know I kind of get something of what this community is about, and I want to buy into it for the coming year. Not literally, you don't have to put any money in, but like this saying of like, okay, I'm committed to this. I want to be a part of this. I like what this community is trying to be, and I want to be a part of making that happen. We're a bit unusual in that as a church, our membership doesn't roll on year. If you're a member of this church, on the 4th of September, you will officially stop being a member of this church unless you sign up for another year. We just do it year on year. And so all you're ever saying is, okay, for this next journey around the sun, I want to do this journey together. So that's just by way of saying, welcome to September, welcome to this moment in our year as church. And by being here today, you are a part of getting to write that. You're a part of getting to think through that. You're a part of us shaping that. This isn't me and Dave it's going to tell you what to think or what to believe or what to anything. This is us doing it together. Speaking of which, I didn't introduce myself. I always forget to introduce myself. If I haven't met you before, or even if I have, my name is Sam, and I'm one of the ministers here at One Church. Welcome from Sam, which is my name. Now I'm saying it sounds like I'm lying. Just don't need to say it too much. Now, we are here together, and in a moment we're going to sing, and you can engage with this kind of time through the service as you will. You'll notice when we sing, some people will stand, some people won't. That's okay. You can do what you like. You can kind of engage with the time as you will. But just in a moment, we're going to do read some liturgy together. And liturgy is just a way of praying together, of speaking words together, and the words of welcome, of connection, of hello-ness. So, in fact, I'm going to ask Mark to seamlessly move that way and be ready, because after this, we'll sing together. But we're going to use these words as a way of welcoming ourselves, as a way of welcoming each other, as a way of welcoming not just the part of yourself that you feel like you should bring to church, but your whole self. We're not interested in kind of a bit of you. We want to be here completely together as we are this morning. So we're going to say these words together. Are you ready? I will say the ones in black. You say the ones in orange. Yeah. So, welcome to the joyful. May we be able to share that joy here. Welcome to the tired and weary. May we find rest here. Welcome to the lonely. May we find community here. Welcome to the sick. May we find healing here. Welcome to those who mourn. May we find comfort here. Welcome to the foreigner, the stranger, the refugee. May we find safety here. Welcome to every nation, every race, every sexual orientation, every gender identity. May we find hospitality here. The God who delights in all of creation is in our midst. Thanks be to God. Amen. So let's stand. If you're able to stand, if you'd like to stand, then stand and we'll sing together.
Have you ever seen the wonder in the glimmer of first light? As the eyes begin to open, and the blindness meets the light. Let's sing that again. Have you ever seen the wonder in the glimmer of first sight? As the eyes begin to open, and the blindness meets the light. If you have souls, say, I see the world in light. I see the world in wonder. I see the world in life, bursting in living color. And I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light. Have you ever seen the wonder in the air of second life? Having come out of the waters with the old one left behind. If you have souls, say, I see the world in light. I see the world in wonder. I see the world in life, bursting in living color. Your way, and I'm walking in the light. I see the world in grace, I see the world in gospel, and I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light, and I'm walking in the wonder. You're the wonder in the wild, wilderness to wonder. Oh, I'll say, I see the world in love. I see the world in freedom, and I see the world your way. You're the wonder in the wild. Have you ever seen the wonder in the glimmer of first sight? As the eyes begin to open, and the blindness meets the light. Have you ever seen the wonder in the air of second life? Having come out of the waters with the old one left behind. If you have souls, say, I see the world in light. I see the world in wonder. I see the world in life, bursting in living color. And I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light. I see the world in grace. I see the world in gospel, and I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light, and I'm walking in the wonder. You're the wonder in the wild, turning wilderness to wonder. Oh, I'll say, I see the world in love. I see the world in freedom. I see the world your way. You're the wonder in the wild. And I see the world your way. I'm not afraid to follow. And I see the world your way. I'm not ashamed to say so. I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light. the light. You are the light, song of my life. You always lead. You are the voice inside. You are my love. No one before you. All that I am points to you, and I was made by you, and I was made for you, and I am unfulfilled without full communion. You are the light, the song of my life. You always lead. You are the voice inside. You are my love. No one before you. All that I am points to you, and I was made by you, and I was made for you, and I am unfulfilled without full communion. Since your love got a hold of me, since your love got a hold of me, I'm a new creation. I'm forever changed. Oh, since your love got a hold of me, since your love got a hold of me, I'm a new creation. I'm forever changed. Oh, since your love got a hold of me, since your love got a hold of me, I'm a new creation. I'm forever changed. Oh, since your love got a hold of me, since your love got a hold of me, I'm a new creation. I'm forever changed, and I am unfulfilled without full communion. In you is all I need. You're my breath, you're my life, you're my everything. In you is all I need. You're my breath, you're my life, you're my everything. In you is all I need. You're my breath, you're my life, you're my everything. In you is all I need. You're my breath, you're my life, you're my everything.
it's easy to get to this point in the week and just not have moments. So maybe now let's just take a moment and sit in the words of that song. Oh yeah, you can sit in the words of that song. What does it mean for you to say that? Maybe it feels like you're saying it into a void, just kind of hoping that there's something there to hear it. Maybe it's you saying it out of joy. Maybe it's you saying it out of pain. The ancient Christian teacher, St. Augustine, said, "Our hearts are restless until they find rest in you." And there's this image of us kind of bustling around, but somehow coming home to God is coming home to peace. Coming home to God is coming home to acceptance. Coming home to God is coming home to all we need. Amen. Is this my bit of paper? Yeah. No. Then what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I've got a question for you. And I'm undecided about whether to get you to talk to the person next to you about it or not. Caben, can I have the screen? The question is this, and this is going to spark some of our conversation around our values this morning. I was going to try and kind of get a sense of like, how do we work out not just what our church's values are, but what our values are? Like, what do we hold as important? And I was trying to frame a way, thank you so much, of asking that question. This is my best effort to date about how to ask this question. And it's this: what's one character trait that you want to be known to embody? So if you were to ask someone to say something about you, what would you want them to say? And not just like, oh, Sam's really good looking, because it's not quite a character trait. It is a part of who I am, but it's not the whole picture of who I am. So kind of at your deepest self, I was kind of wondering, like, do I frame this question as in like, at your funeral, what do you want people to say to you about you? A bit morbid. So we've come back to this. What's one character trait that you would like to be known to embody? Now, just 30 seconds, okay? 30 seconds with the person next to you, and then I'm going to get us to share them with each other. Sam told me not to hold the end of this, and I keep forgetting and doing this, which breaks it. 30 seconds, person next to you, what's one character trait that you would love to be known to embody? Interesting.
Or, that's the sort of thing you probably reality want to be. I think depending which part of you is making the decision. Because yes, I mean, loving or thoughtful or kind is the sort of, on a good day, you want to be known as someone that's reliable and kind, and that's the person you go to if you need help. On a bad day, you just want to be important to someone. So,
what about you guys?
What would you like your friends to say about it? Is that all right?
She's so boring. Would you like that? Okay, so not boring.
Not
That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah.
I like that you broke down ice. Because I can say it too. That's the one thing you want people to do, but you shouldn't. Yeah.
I think at peace feels like quite a, do you know what I mean? Like there's a kind of groundedness. Yeah.
That's true.
Not doing stuff out of franticness, but out of
My parents here, often people say that.
really. I like that. I would think that's
Okay. Oh, good. We're going to share them together. Now, I don't quite know how this is going to work, but it does require you to use your phone in church. Woohoo! So, if you get out your... Oh, wait. Oh, no, I need to skip over to it. If you get out your smartphone and use this link here, that's right, we're Slidoing in church because we're cool and trendy. That's us. We're like evangelicals now, says Ryan. Then share what was your word. What's the one thing that you would want people to be known to, that you would want to be known to embody? And as you share it there, it should pop up. Is it too small? You can use the number otherwise. If you go to slido.com and type in 3033595. Okay, so we got kindness a couple of times. Integrity is getting bigger. Integrity is getting really big. Wow. Peace. Yeah, I said peace. I feel like I want to be known as someone who is peaceful. Engaging, patient, sexy. Yeah, again, I feel like we're just describing me. Trustworthy, considerate, empathic, generous, an inspiring love of stories, non-judgmental, strong mind, friendly, sincerity. They're hopping around all over the place. Determined, courageous, comforting, loving. Kindness has now overtaken integrity. Whoa, this is beautiful. What's Ryan laughing at? I'm trying to work it out. Sausages. Right, who put sausages? Okay, I'm now going to frame the question in a slightly different way. Are you ready? Keep Slido open because I'm about to change it up. That was really, what a beautiful list. If we could all be known, looking around the room, I can see a fair amount of all this stuff, most of it. But second question is this. What's one character trait you'd like one church to be known to embody? Now, you don't just have to put the one that you think is obvious or whatever that is, but have a think about it for a moment. If you wanted people to know one thing about this community, what would it be? Wait. Yeah, we need some more private jets around, don't we? Happy, fun, Christ-like, inclusive, welcoming, inclusivity, inclusive, reclamation, change makers, affirming, Jesus-focused, trustworthy, facilitating community, approachable, love, relevant, serving unconditionally, genuine, coffee caring, cult-like. Is there a way of saying that in a good way? Maybe at first, like in the early stages of a cult, it's all good, isn't it? Full of grace, doing what we say we do, Slido friendly. Man. Again, what a beautiful thing. And such a beautiful thing. And really, what we're talking about here is you can't quantify most of this stuff, can you? You can't be like, right, in a year's time, we're going to, we're going to be 50% more kind. Can you? Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't, these things aren't targets, they're ways of being. They're ways of kind of understanding ourselves in the world. And as we talk about our values, like you're not going to hear us talking loads about goals as a church because really we don't want to be thinking about goals too much. We want to be thinking about not so much where we're going, but how we're going to get there. And this is all stuff, largely, I mean, the paying thing we can quantify, I suppose. And coffee to some degree. Wacky. Oh, they're still going. Well done. I like this. Are you just now trying to spam the screen? I should move it, shouldn't I now? All right, I'm going to dismiss the screen because it's becoming a distraction. But it's these kind of ways of being. And Dave's going to talk about this a bit more in a little bit. But as a church, we've got 5 kind of principles that are really this kind of thing. They're us saying, what do we want other people, not just so that we look good, but what do we want to be so a part of who we are that when people look at us, they see these things? And we've kind of distilled, like a long time ago in the church, we distilled those into kind of 5 words. Can anyone remember any of the words that are our values? Can anyone remember? Bit of a hands up. Inclusive, okay, inclusivity is one. Very close though. I mean, welcoming would be a great one. Oh, all right, you can't just have 2. Show off. So, what we had so far? Inclusive, you said integrity, and interdependence is one. What does interdependence mean? Very good. We depend on each other. This whole community matters. Okay, any others? Intimacy, great, intimacy with God. And involvement in the world, very good, we got there in the end. These kind of 5 principles have been a part of our kind of DNA for a number of years now. We're going to think about those in a little bit. However, it is time for our kids and young people to go and upgrade to the cool groups. So, if you see a kid that's about the same age as you, follow them. We've got the Buds room open out that way, primary school kids out this way, and youth, follow Anton. I think you're going to the park. Yeah, youth, follow Anton to the park. If you're not happy with your youth following Anton to the park, stop them now, because they will go to the park. And the rest of us, we're going to hear from Dave in a little bit. But first, we're going to just have a bit more time to be in quiet together. Well, not in quiet, in song quiet, in quiet song. And I feel like this is something Mark does so well, is just kind of create space for us to be. So I really, again, as we sing now, I want to encourage you, what do you need to do in this space? If it's just, actually, I need to think about something, I need to meditate on something, I need to just engage with God in this way, then use the time that way. This kind of singing stuff isn't just so that we all stand up and we all sing a song together. It's to give us space to be together with God. So engage in this bit how you need to. Oh, wait, I forgot to do the notices. Do you reckon I should do them now? Probably. I'd do them quickly now, Dave says. The irony is there's more notices than there's ever been in the history of the world. So, notices, are you ready? If you're new, fill in one of these cards and give it to Fran. Where's Fran? Fran, give it to Fran. Don't give it to me. Don't give it to Dave. Give it to Fran. We'd love to connect with you. If you want to connect with the church and hear about what's going on, then a good way to do it is to subscribe to our One Church community, which a lot of you have already done. This is going to be a way on WhatsApp of both keeping your data private and not enabling anyone who you don't want to see your phone number to see your phone number, but also an easy way of getting last-minute bits of information to you. So if there's a change of venue, if something rains, if it rains, if there's like any kind of last-minute updates, we'll use this. So get on that code and join in that group. We won't spam you, I promise. Partnership Sunday is in a few weeks' time on the 24th. So allow a little bit more time. We'll celebrate. There'll probably be cake and funtivities in the morning service on that day. So that's 10:30 here on the 24th is Partnership Sunday. So come dress up for your Sunday best or whatever you normally wear on Sundays. And then in the evening on that day, because it's also the kind of time of the autumn equinox, we'll be celebrating that change of season with a really special event here with someone called Wilderthorn, which is like this musical artist who does kind of soundscape spaces. So the evening on the 24th is going to be like a really, really beautiful, I guess like about an hour-long kind of space just to sit in music and be. And that will kind of be our way of marking this kind of autumnal change together. So really encourage you to come. We were going to ticket it. We were going to charge for tickets. But then very kindly, the guys said, you don't need to charge One Church for tickets. So that's really, really kind. We might take a donation on the night. But you're getting like a premium experience for the ability of no cost, which is amazing. So do come along to that. What time is it, Dave? It will be at a time that will be communicated with you nearer the time on the WhatsApp group. We're going to start a new group this term. Sorry, Mark, you're just standing around now. On Thursday evenings, starting on the 28th of September, for maybe like, if you remember earlier in the year, we did like a new to faith group, and it was really, really lovely way of just hanging out with people who are newer on the kind of faith journey and saying, well, what does it mean to be a Christian? What are some of the core things that we think and that our journey has been? We're going to do a similar group, but it's kind of new to One Church. So maybe you're not new to faith, but maybe you're new around here and you kind of want to know a little bit more about, well, these values and why do we think what we think and what do we think and how do we kind of process and how do we do church together and what's our ecclesiology and our soteriology and our eschatology and all those kind of fun things. If you want to come along and just hear a bit more about the heart of this community and to work on that together, so it's not just if you're new, but if you want to kind of do that again, you could just do it again. We'll do that starting on Thursday evenings on the 28th of September. So let me know if you're interested in coming to that, because that would be really, really lovely. Lastly, next weekend on Sunday afternoon, there is a climate march. And if you want to know more about that, speak to Ali at the back. I don't know if you'll still be at the back afterwards, but speak to Ali. But basically, it's kind of a march of protest and a march of solidarity with our world, with the environment, and kind of all that's happening. And that will be next Sunday, and it's going to round a few places, but it's coming past here at 1:30 p.m. So if you want to intercept the march here, otherwise there's a load of, actually, Cabe, pop the screen up, there's a load of other destinations that you can join in at, and that'd be really, really great. If you're interested, speak to Ali. Ali, wave. That's Ali. Talk to her afterwards. Sorry? But you'd be a good person. She's not interested in going herself. I wouldn't say she cares that much about the environment, but you could go to her for the information. Great. Is that enough notices for now? I think so. You can stay seated if you like. Is that all right? Stay seated. Use the space.
I feel sometimes when I'm in this sort of situation where there's a point where I want to stand up and no one else has, and there's that sort of like, ooh. So if you're in that state, just stand up. It's fine. In my longing, in my waiting, will your presence be enough when I'm fearful, when I'm doubting? Will I have the strength to trust? You're the first, you're the last, you're forever. You're the one who brings spring out of winter. You're the promise and you are the keeper. You're the one who holds all things together. In my grieving, in my sorrow, will your goodness steady when I'm blinded, when I'm hopeless, will I have the eyes to see? You're the first, you're the last, you're forever. You're the one who brings spring out of winter. You're the promise and you are the keeper. You're the one who holds all things together, together, together. You're the one who holds all things together, together, together. You're the one who holds all things together. In my serving, when I'm hidden, will I trust the Father sees? When you call me, will I listen? Will I follow where you lead? And you're the first, you're the last, you're forever. You're the one who brings spring out of winter. You're the promise and you are the keeper. You're the one who holds all things together. You're the first, you're the last, you're forever. You're the one who brings spring out of winter. You're the promise and you are the keeper. You're the one who holds all things together, and together, and together. You're the one who brings all things together, together, together. You're the one who holds all things together, together, together. You're the one who brings all things together, together, together. You're the one who holds all things together. I want to know you, Lord, like I know a friend. I want to know you, Lord. I want to know you, Lord, like I know a friend. I want to know you, Lord. So I'm laying down all my religion. I'm laying down. I want to know you, Lord. I'm laying down all my religion. I'm laying down. I want to know you, Lord. I want to know you, Lord. And I used to think that I could box you in, but I'm laying down. I want to know you, Lord. And I used to think that I could box you in, but I'm laying down. I want to know you, Lord. So I'm laying down. Lord, I've been told to be ashamed. Lord, I've been told I don't measure up. Lord, I've been told I'm not good enough, but you're here with me. And I reach out and you find me in the dust. And you say no amount of untruth can separate us. And I reach out and you find me in the dust. And you say no amount of untruth can separate us. So I'm laying down all my religion. I'm laying down. I want to know you, Lord. I'm laying down all my religion. I'm laying down. I want to know you, Lord. And I will rejoice in the simple gospel. And I will rejoice in you, Lord. And I will rejoice in the simple gospel. And I will rejoice in you, Lord. I'm laying down all my religion. I'm laying down. I want to know you, Lord. I'm laying down all my religion. I'm laying down. I want to know you, Lord.
Morning, everybody. My name's Dave, and I'm one of the ministers here. And I get to share with you a little bit this morning, as Sam has introduced us so brilliantly, actually, to this stuff about our values. We do this point pretty much every year. We've done it for 12 years or so. And even walking here this morning, I was thinking, oh, man, are we going to do this every year? You know, like, when are we going to change our values? And even that statement says something about me. You know, I like new things. I like to do new things. I like to move on. And we keep coming back to these values. And I think it's really important. I think hopefully you'll see as we begin to unpack our first couple of values today, that if you know what your values are, it's really easy to live life. When you know what you really fundamentally believe, or you want, or the question was quite nicely framed, wasn't it, that Sam put up there. When you know how you'd like to appear, then behave that way. It makes making choices really easy. And as a church, several years ago, we sat around, and it's kind of turned into sort of slight mythology, so just go with this. But I think we're on a mountaintop, and no, it was the basement of Gloucester Place, actually. But there was this glow all around. And we were having these discussions at the time about the future of the church. we'd had these two churches, Gloucester Place Baptist Church and Florence Road Baptist Church. And sorry for those of you who go, oh, this story again. But we decided to join together. The genius of that is that we had this moment to start again. So we became One Church Brighton. We started again on an Easter Sunday morning. And we deliberately said, it doesn't really matter what the old constitutions of the previous churches were, or even the membership lists, or even what they held true or believed. We're not dishonouring that, but this is new. So if you've got a new start, make the most of it. So we literally had big pieces of blank paper, and we started to talk about, like, how do we do membership? Should we have membership at all as a church? And this thing that Sam pointed out about on the 24th on partnership grew out of that discussion. This feels like a healthier way to say, hey, we belong to one another, partner with what we're doing, don't just become a member of a church like you might become the member of a gym or something. There's something a bit more, a bit deeper than that. So we came up with partnership. And then we were kicking around. Basically, it's a very fundamental question, which is, what are our values? What do we want to be known for as a church? What's specifically unique to us in this point in history in Brighton? And that felt such an empowering time. And we had all of these different words, a bit like the word cloud that we put up there, very similar. And then basically we realised that some themes, strong themes, started to emerge. And Alan, who's not here, do you know Alan did this? Have I said this before, Claire? I can't remember. Alan's is Claire's dad. And he got up, because he's a real sort of bossy type. And he sort of said, oh, there are sort of, these are categories that sort of fit together. And we ended up with 5 categories, and they had different words, but we realised actually we could make them fit around 5 words beginning with I. And I sometimes regret that, because it looks like maybe that's the only reason we chose them. And it was the other way around. So if you can give me the screen. So Sam said them already, but intimacy, involvement, interdependence, inclusion and integrity are the values that we stated then, and we still believe are our values now. Now, you might go, well, why don't they change? Well, values are different to goals or vision. Lots of churches are able to tell you in a much better, clearer way than one church has ever been able to about the direction it's going. What is it that you want to achieve? We want 500 bums on seats. We want to be multi-site. We want to have franchised One Church brand. All these things that I really want to do. And we said, well, let's just be a church that becomes known for its values more and more, and let's press into these values. These are clearly aspirational values. As Sam said, we're never going to get to the point where we go, we are as intimate with God as it's possible to be. We really nailed that one. What do we do next? These are huge values, but they point us in the right direction. I've told this story before, but I love it. There's a story that apparently is true. I've Googled it and everything. About Albert Einstein when he was alive. Unusually for a lot of kind of well-known historical figures. He was, in his lifetime, a celebrity and known. And people would go in there, flock to hear him give lectures and speak. And he'd go around the country giving lectures. There's a story about Albert Einstein going on a train and going to give a lecture somewhere. And this guy comes and opens his carriage door and says, "Tickets, please." And Albert Einstein goes, you're going to have to come back. I can't find my ticket. So the guy goes away, comes back a second time. You find your ticket? He's got his bag apart. He's tearing everything apart. He says, I need my ticket. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And the guy said, well, don't worry. I'll come back later. Comes back later, opens the carriage door. The place is like, the seats have been removed. The guy is just like desperately trying to find this thing. And he says, look, Mr. Einstein, don't worry. I know who you are. And he said, young man, I know who I am. I just don't know where I'm going. Which is an amazing story, isn't it? If it's true. Please let it be true. I know who I am, I don't know where I'm going. I think a lot of people think it's more important in life that you know where you're going. I disagree. I think it's far more important to know who you are. And being who you are will take you to the places you should be. That's the theory that I believe in. As one of the ministers of this church, it's something I really believe in. And we come back to time and time again. Little opportunities open up, little things where you go, oh, that's tempting. And then you go, actually, that doesn't really flow out of our values. That's not going to strengthen any of our values. And we said no to some stuff over the years that I think on the surface have looked like really good opportunities. But we've stuck with it and held on to these values because we're still a long way off on these things. And the excitement for me is the kind of places that these values might take us. And if you'd have told me that we'd be doing some of the stuff that we're doing today when we met on that Easter beach 13 years ago and said we're going to start this new church together, I could not have ever imagined. So we've done better things than my imaginings. And my imagination was pretty wild back then, but I couldn't have imagined the things we've done because I think that's God honouring us failing, not always doing the right thing. I'm not saying that. But trying to live out our values. Does that make sense? And that's what we're doing in this little season. That's what we're thinking about. I want us to look at some verses in the Bible that, if nothing else, I just think these are wonderful things. Even as I got up early this morning and reread them and knew that I wanted to talk about these verses, I was just so encouraged about them. These are just Jesus' teaching in its finest sense. So much of church has become an intellectual exercise. So much of Christian faith has become this sort of rigorous theological debate. And Jesus, the founder, perfecter of our faith, comes along and tells some stories that a child could understand. But they're the least simple things you could imagine. They're not simplistic. They're profound and they're beautiful. And I'm going to rabbit on for a bit after I've read this. But it might be that this is the most kind of profound thing of the day as you just hear again some of the parables. So I'm just going to read the 3 or 4 little parables, very short. And this is basically Jesus saying, this is what the kingdom of God looks like. This is why I've come. If you want to measure how good somebody's life is in terms of being a follower of mine, if you want to measure somebody's life in terms of how much they brought the kingdom on earth as it is in heaven, then I'm going to give you some little pictures of what that looks like. And ultimately, scarily, if you want to measure whether a church is the kind of church that I am the head of, then these are here's some stories for you to chew over. So as you listen to them again, imagine that you're sitting on a hillside. Imagine that Jesus is speaking. And you're hearing these stories. And the headline is this: I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about the kingdom. And this is what he says. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea. Such great crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat there, while the whole crowd stood on the beach. I said, imagine you're on a mountain. Scrub that. Imagine you're on a beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying, listen, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seeds fell on a path, and the birds came and ate them up. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil. And they sprang up quickly, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched. And since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and brought forth grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. If you have ears, hear. He put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that someone took and sowed in his field. It's the smallest of all the seeds, but when it has grown, it's the greatest of shrubs and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and make their nests in its branches. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a person took and mixed in with 3 measures of flour until all of it was leavened. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field, which someone found and reburied. Then in their joy, they go and sell all that they have and buy that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant in search of fine pearls. On finding one pearl of great value, they went and sold all they had and bought it. What is Jesus trying to say? The messages have lots of similarities, but there's different stuff in there. If he's saying this is what it is to be kingdom people, what is the message that he's trying to say? The 2 values that I'm going to be thinking about today, we often start with these 2 values. And we start with the 2 of them because I think that they are inextricably linked. And it's helpful for you to understand that they're inextricably linked because they are intimacy and involvement. Intimacy with God and involvement in God's world. They are two values that have definitely shaped One Church. We're known in the city for our involvement in the world. I want us to be also a place that is bound in our ability to help people to be intimate with God. Apart, you can think about intimacy and involvement. They make sense on their own, don't they? Intimacy with God. Well, every church should be doing that, about your relationship with God. We've just sung some incredibly emotive words, intimate words about God. Things that we want to be found in him, to breathe in him, to know him, to love him. You're my all, you're my everything, these kind of things. And that is intimacy with God that we should desire. When we finish this series, we're going to start a new series on Exodus. And I'm really looking forward to it. It came a bit out of thin air. We were like bashing around stuff. And the more I'm reading about it personally, I just find it really exciting. And the whole of the Exodus story is fundamentally why God's people should honour and worship God. We're going to get into a lot more detail than that. But the why is because God's love and liberation for his people. Not because God is big and scary and you better worship him, but because of the liberation of his people makes him worthy of our worship. Makes us desirous to be intimate with somebody who has loved us first, who has reached out to us first. So it makes sense on its own, and we want to be the sort of church that encourages that kind of attitude of worship towards a God who is knowable and who loves us first. But also involvement. That's something which every church should be doing. Get involved, make a difference in the world. Most churches would want to believe that and to do it. That's not a controversial thing. I guess the reason that we say these two things together is that has become this tendency for churches to press into one or the other in deeper ways, and actually to scapegoat the other thing. So churches which are known for their intimacy sometimes scapegoat Christian movements that are involved in the world but don't talk much about Jesus. Oh, it's all very well serving the poor. There was this phrase, I think it's sort of gone, but when I was growing up, it was the social gospel, which I was like, that sounds amazing. I want to be part of that. I didn't know that was a bad thing. Oh, it's the social gospel. You're doing what social services are doing. The church isn't called to be doing social services. Leave that to them. We're here to save souls. But intimacy with God is really important. Involvement, not so important. Equally, I grew up around a lot of people who were social justice warriors and wanted to change the world, but didn't know where their faith fitted with that and were ashamed or a bit embarrassed about that. And how is it possible for us to have both of those things? I spoke at this conference in Norway years ago, and I just remembered it this morning, this flashback. It was the craziest thing I've seen happen in a Christian conference, and I've been to plenty. And it was sort of brilliant, but it was chaos. And what they did was they asked everybody to set themselves. The guy who was speaking was talking about the sort of generations and how we're richer when we have generations together, which is a good thing. I fundamentally agreed with everything he said. But he wanted to illustrate it. And he got everybody in the room, it was a big room, to clear the front of the room, and everybody who was over 25 to stand this side, and everyone under 25 to stand this side. And then he said, I want you to partner up and grab somebody from the other side. It's pre-safeguarding days. But so somebody grabbed someone from the other generation. And then they said, if you're older, I want you to pull the person towards you. And if you're younger, I want you to push the older person. I mean, it sounds nuts, isn't it? There was a little bit of me this morning that thought, should we do that? And then I was like, no, we definitely should, because I thought it was nuts at the time. But he was trying to make the point that each generation, the obligation that you have if you're older is to pull the other generation along, is to encourage it, come along. And the younger generation, your job is to be pushing the older generation and to be saying, come on, don't give up, don't slow down, don't be open to new things. Does that sort of the point was there, it just didn't work when you think about the logistics of it. But for me, this image of intimacy and involvement is like this pushing and pulling. That that if you're serious about your relationship with God and serious about your worship of him, it will not result in being in more Christian events and church services. It will inevitably, I think, lead to being in more of the broken and dislocated places in your community. That this push and pull effect of us going into God finds us deeper in the world. Does that make sense? And I kind of want to break this image that we have of this sacred secular thing where we think our worship goes upwards and it goes to a disembodied God who's in the sky and we tell him we love him and he's standing next to us going, who are you talking to? You know, that actually our intimacy with God, as we go into God, we find, and I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, but we find ourselves in the places where God is. Does that make sense? I know that's slightly esoteric, but this is my story, that actually the more serious I am about my interior life, I don't find myself more withdrawn from the world. I find myself desirous to change the world and to be engaged within it. And that's why these two things are completely bound together. A church that swaps intimacy that brings God's kingdom here on earth for you feeling emotionally good on a Sunday morning is not worship. If God is here to redeem the world, to put together all of the dislocated, broken pieces of the world, if that's his big plan, if that's this whole idea of our Christian faith, is for all of the cosmos to be redeemed, and we're joining in with that, then our act of worship is to join in with that, not to remove ourselves from it. Does that sort of make sense? And that, for me, feels so significant to One Church. As we go into God, we'll find ourselves more in the places and situations. We will be involved in the brokenness of the world, involved in the brokenness of each other's lives, involved in real relationship, involved. Not involved because we feel sorry for people, but actually because we are in God and with God. And if that's true, we will be alongside and with people who God's heart is for. And that tendency to kind of scapegoat one or the other is a dangerous thing. So let's just pause and think a bit about these biblical images. There's so much going on here. And you find these verses that I just read to you, all of them in Matthew 13. There's a couple of other examples of what the kingdom is like. But I just want to pick up on a few little thoughts. The first one is that sower of the seed. That is a story that I heard so much growing up. It was a Sunday school absolute kind of favourite, isn't it? The bit I just want to ask you to pause and think about is where Jesus says the problem with the seed falling on the stony ground or on the other sort of ground is that it says since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root. He's saying the same thing twice. That you need this depth of soil in order to put down roots. And for me, this kind of image of intimacy is you putting down your roots more and more into God. And at this point, what would be easy for me to do would be to pivot and to tell you about the things that will bring you intimacy with God. And I think that's where the church has often failed people. Because it's come up with 4 or 5 blunt tools that says this is how you find intimacy with God. It's Bible study. It's quiet time. It's coming to church. It's tithing. I mean, that one does actually work, so don't write that one off. But, you know, they use these blunt tools, and people try them, and they pretend that they work, or they work for a season, and then you go, do you know what, just my relationship with God just feels dry. Because we treat everybody as though they're made the same, and it becomes like the education system, that everyone learns in the same way. And we are learning that not everybody doesn't learn in the same way. And your intimacy with God, and this is my big takeaway challenge for you, your task, if you have any desire to be a worshipper of God, is to find out what is it that brings you intimacy with God. Not to compare with the person next to you, because their personality is different, their character is different. What's the thing that helps you find intimacy with God? For some people, you are more of a head sort of person, and it might be more knowledge and understanding and reading. Do that. Others of you, might be you just much more of the feels kind of person. Might be that music takes you to that place. It might be that nature takes you to that place. But it's your task to find out, what is it that puts my roots down into God? And do it. It's not complicated, but it does have to be intentional. That intimacy with God, creating the depth so that your life isn't shallow. So that there is enough soil for it to grow. The bit I find fascinating about that little parable is that there's a definite, very strong sense that something needs to be broken in order for the seed to take root. It immediately takes me to the over-quoted Leonard Cohen song. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. I was pausing for dramatic effect. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And I think that there's a very definite thing in this image of the ground being broken in order for the seed to get in. And brokenness doesn't mean necessarily that your life is falling apart. It just means the vulnerability to allow yourself to be honest before God. And that's what intimacy is about. For me, I have found that in nature. It kind of opens me up. That walking and getting out of my head and feeling like I'm alone in the presence of God, and the evidence of that is the energy of nature around me, feeling like the energy of the Holy Spirit surrounding me, and seeing light through trees and smelling those smells and feeling that stuff somehow breaks me a bit. It means I can't hide anymore, and you're kind of open and you're vulnerable and you're seen. And you can't have intimacy with God if you don't allow yourself to be a bit broken sometimes. And that might be in a particular friendship, and that's part of your seeking intimacy with God. When I'm with that person, I don't know what it is, but I feel like I think about God more. I think about God things more. Spend time with those people. It's really significant. In that other image of the mustard seed, I'm going into dangerous territories you're about to discover on a personal level here. But, oh gosh. In parenting, there's a cliche. But some cliches are worth repeating, and you all know this, I'm sure. But where they say that to be a good parent, you need to give your child roots and wings. My third point is... and we're in a season now where some of you, this isn't just about me, I spoke to someone already this morning who's had the experience of letting their child go as they take them off to university. And those moments of where you can't, the roots are either there or they're not. The child grows up, and their ability to stretch out into the world and to do good in the world and to feel free is directly connected to their roots. And all of that love that you put in, and all of that stuff. And it is no different to our relationship with God, who says, I want you to put down roots into me. Not out of any selfish, controlling, even parental behavior. God's more than that. He says, I want you to put down roots into me so that you can fly and flourish. And the image of a mustard seed that's put into broken ground and grows into something that eventually sees birds flying away from it and flying back. A seed that turns into shelter is intimacy and is involvement. Where your mustard seed of kindness, your mustard seed of desire to do well in the world, your mustard seed to volunteer for that thing that's a pain in the backside. But actually, do you know what? You do it even in your brokenness and poor motivation and everything else. But you do that act of kindness. Has the potential to shelter. Has the potential to free. Not just the person that you are trying to serve and love, but yourself. And this beautiful in-swing and out-swing of the teeny act that somehow God turns into something bigger is a profound thing. In Ephesians 3, Paul says, as you rooted and established in love. That's how we see the kingdom come. We're rooted and established. And finally, in those other things, the yeast, the buried treasure, the pearl, all of these are small things. Like yeast, if any of you have baked, I've tried to make bread recently, and the yeast disappears almost instantly. You don't see it within the flour, it's just there. But if you don't put it in, you know. The whole point of the treasure in the field isn't the treasure in itself, it's the field means that this is just a little thing. However big the treasure is, the field is bigger. But it's found in the depth of the soil, and it gives richness, wealth to the whole piece. Even the pearl. It's a funny little story, I think. There's a pearl salesman, like you expect to find pearls, but there's something about this particular one that everyone else has looked past. You can imagine the market stall, and this expert goes, there's all kinds of things here, but this little pearl, this is precious, and it's worth selling everything I have to get. And we seem to have done this whole thing about revivalism in church and the bigness of everything. That's when we know God's turned up, because big things happen. And Jesus sits down his followers and says, this is how you'll know. Because people will put yeast into bread, into flour. They'll bury treasure in a field. These are the small little things that God may well do something significant with. But our task is to just do the constant, where we can, little things of being intimate with God, of saying, I want to be found in him and press deeper into God. And I know that's a bit esoteric and a bit cliched, but you have to turn that kind of thought, and I do, into action. What does it mean for me? If it's true that I come alive in God when I'm out in nature, why is it that 95% of my day is on a screen, it feels like? It's not good for me. It's not making me more intimate with God. What's my choice going to be? The pearl of great price is worth selling everything to own. Because when you find that intimacy, you'll suddenly find that actually the good things that you want to do are fueled. They're not exhausting. They're not never-ending. The difficulties that come when you try to do good are overcomeable. The difficulties will come. Nothing in life is easy. But there's something about this point where you go, I'm in this flow of ability to do some good in the world. Yes, I might be exhausted, but there's something deep within me which feels like it's come out of the roots of who I am and not just me pulling myself up by my own bootstraps. As a church, as I finish, we I feel no obligation as the minister of this church to be responsible for your intimacy with God. You might think that's the opposite. As the minister, that is my job. I'm sorry, that's a load of nonsense. Don't blame me. Don't blame me for your shallow soil. All we ever try and do, Fran and Sam and I, every week we sit around a table, we have a coffee, and we work through, what are opportunities that may help some people to find some more intimate moments with God and with one another. That's all we're trying to do. It's as simple as that. You choose whether to show up to those things, and they are not the only things that will bring you intimacy with God. This isn't a talk to get you to come to more church things. Might be less. If you honestly find more intimacy with God in other places, go to those places. Our job as a church is to simply make sure that there are moments that provoke you and ask these kinds of questions, that challenge you and equip you and allow you to ask questions of others. How are you doing in your faith? In your journey groups, if you're in a journey group, the ability to look other people in the eye and say, how are you doing? And to be able to speak out those sort of little cracks in you and allow yourself to be honest so that maybe the light gets in. That's our responsibility to try and do that as a church. But we can't make intimacy for you. And involvement, again, probably 90% of the involvement of bringing God's kingdom on earth as it is in heaven, in your daily life, is spent well outside of these four walls and outside of any kind of church activity. At least that, maybe more. Because you're being asked to do it as a husband or a daughter or a cousin or a flatmate or as a neighbour or as a work colleague or as somebody walking down the street or somebody paying at a till. You're just being asked to do it all the time. Bring the kingdom, bring this stuff that you've received yourself. But occasionally it's better to do stuff together. And that's the job of the church, I think. Occasionally to go, hey, we want to open a house for a refugee family. You can't really do that on your own. So is there a little team who could do that? Yes, that team's emerged. It's amazing. We want to feed 50 people who lack social connection. And there's a gang of us who do that. You can't really do it on your own. Let's do that together. There are hundreds of people over the years who have served meals to chomp families. We've served thousands of meals. You can't do that on your own. So there's some good stuff to do together. And if you're a visitor or if this is your first time, it's so important you know that all the things that we're known for, that we do in this city, the training of baristas, getting them jobs, meaningful jobs, all of these things, I can take you back to the person who had a passion to do good in the world and said, do you think we could do this? And then our job is simply to fan that flame, find a bit of money, find some other volunteers. So it might be that you're going, oh, this church has nothing to say to X, Y, or Z. There's some situation in need. I wonder why one church has never done anything for elderly people. We have in the past, by the way, but we're not doing right now. If that bothers you, come and talk to me. I'd love that conversation. How can we fan that into flame? I'm going to finish. We're going to take communion. And we don't have very long, and I apologise for that. But we're going to take communion because it's absolutely the right way to finish thinking about intimacy and involvement. Because in this bread and wine, we have this incredible image of intimacy and involvement. Because God himself turns up and says, I want to leave you with something. And it's not 10 rules for how to run a church. In fact, it's not even the church. It's not even, I'm not entirely sure what Jesus hoped for would emerge. But he said, I'm going to leave you with a meal. And then this is the bit that messes with your head. That meal is me. You can't be more intimate. What I want to leave you with is not a set of teachings or instructions. I want to leave you with myself. So that when you meet, eat of my flesh. Drink of this blood poured out for you. It couldn't be more intimate. You were about to eat symbolically and remember Christ in you, the hope of glory. It becomes this profound thing that it's just a bit of bread and it's just a bit of cranberry juice. But we are eating together Christ. It's mind-blowing and complex in some senses, but it's very simple. It's that acceptance of need of God, of desire of intimacy with God. And then literally, this teeny little amount of food that we're about to eat together will somehow assimilate itself into your body. And there'll be something that you do today that is directly fed by the energy that you get from this little meal. And that's the image of us asking Christ to be within us so that we go to the places Christ would have us go. And we behave in the ways that Christ would have us behave. And we speak to the people Christ would have us speak to. And that's a messy, profound mystery to me. But it is what we're trying to do together. So I think we're going to sing, and we're simply going to pass this around. And I know for some of you, perhaps if you're visiting, there is more ceremony about this. And I'm not being flippant at all. I've got nothing against that. I think it's a very good thing. And more often, we should take more time to do what we're about to do. And there's nothing wrong with ceremony that focuses on the right thing. But I'm simply going to pray for this bread and for this wine and to ask God to help it to become him to us. And so anybody is welcome to take this because he loved you first. And that's the kind of, might just be a little reset at the beginning of a new term to say, okay, I accept again. I accept you. And my intimacy with you will hopefully fuel good kingdom-centered engagement in the world. Let's pray. God, thank you for leaving us with a meal and not a set of rules that we could never keep up to. Thank you that we can hear your words whisper to us even now. Take, eat. This is my body. I thank you that even the room that you first said that to was full of people who were full of cracks and broken. But you said, all of you, take, eat. This is my body, broken for you. God, would this bread and wine be a source of energy to us? Provoke us. Increase our desire for more. So we ask you to bless it. In Jesus' name. Amen. There are some little wafers here which will come round, and they're without gluten if people need to be. Take that.
Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me.
But if you want to hold on to the cup, we'll drink that together in a moment.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you.
you still got it, let's drink together. Thanks so much for being with us today. I really hope that in some way or another, whether it was through what we've sung or has been said, or through those incredible stories of Jesus, that you go into this week with that deep sense of looking for the small things, finding moments, finding the thing that brings you intimacy with God and not letting go of it. Every year we have a little kind of theme around partnership, and just it's been so beautiful. And I always think we're just going to run out of things, but over there, one of the first years we talked about our kind of broken and sharp edges, but when together, we put together, we make something beautiful. And so on the backs of every one of those broken little pieces of tile are the names of people. Some of them are in this room still. And we talked about fruit over there, and the leaves on the tree of people's thumbprints, and butterfly over there. And there was a compass one year, and the swallows or swifts flying out of the door. We did that one year. And at the front of the church, if you go and you look on your way out, last year we talked about the trellis and what can grow against that trellis and leaves, and that's got stuff, living, growing things up against it. And we're not entirely sure, are we, Sam? But we have this thought about roots and about, come and tell us, Sam, because you've done something and you've forgotten, or maybe we've run out of time, but this is worth, I think, highlighting. Tell us what this is about.
Sure. So my dad does a lot of cuttings, and I thought I'd give it a go with an overgrown creeper plant that was trailing in our bedroom. So I took a couple of cuttings off the end of it, stuck it in a bars of water, and ta-da! Now it's happy at the moment. I think at some point it will actually want some soil and some nutrients and some friends. But for the moment it's happy. But what we wondered about was whether anyone would like to try and do one themselves and take home a fresh cutting that I did last night that should then be fine, and you stick it in a pot of water, and hopefully by partnership Sunday there might be like a root coming out of the end of it. This genius thing where plants want to root and they want to do that. So just if it's a helpful metaphor really for you.
Cool. It'd be great if people wanted to do that. Do it as a family. Have something, try and see. There might be other ways that you can see roots growing. If anybody is an expert on mushrooms or fungus, come and speak to me. I kind of thought of, like stuff. There's enough damp in this building. Stuff grows out of the wall. But I just kind of thought, Ben, do you reckon we could get mushrooms around the edge of the building growing? We probably could. But there's something about partnerships and eating something that we've grown. But yeah, have a little play with those thoughts. And the reason he talk about sort of mushrooms and about this sort of fungal net, I think Sam might talk about this next week around interdependence, that actually ecosystems are better when things under the soil grow together. And so we're going to think a bit about that next week. But any creative people, if you want to do some artwork for it, or if you want to grow some stuff, or as Sam said, come and grab one of these things, or grab something yourself in your own garden and see if you can get some roots to appear. Is that okay? Thanks so much. Thanks for being here. Don't feel you have to dash away. I'm sure there's some drinks still left if you'd like to. But thanks so much for being with us today. Thank you.